At the moment, it looks nice and it all looks good. But who knows if we are going to do that for 10 more years? Can be over in 5. Who knows? Especially when Maiden does something like this digital big production and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
I understand they want to be modern and they want to be exciting. I think it's too much. I'm sorry. Even in the 80s, I remember seeing interviews with him where he was saying the doctor said, "Why are you alive? Why are you breathing?"
Hey there, metalheads. We have a very special guest with us today. It's Michael Kiske from Helloween. Hello, and thank you so much for taking time and being here. 2025 is like a very big year for Helloween. We have obviously the 40th anniversary of the band. We have an upcoming album, Giants and Monsters, and I was just thinking about this morning. It's actually officially been, you have been in the band longer now than the first time around. So
Yeah.
that's really fun. So how does it feel
Doesn't feel
now?
like it. That's the funny thing. It does. I think that's because of the pandemic. It was cutting off almost 3 years, and that's like deleted. When you cut that off, it's less. But yeah, but it's more actually. Yeah, I don't know, but time runs anyway, don't you think? It's insane. It's like a day is just a third of the length that it used to have. It's not normal. It's running. There's someone is touching the clock, the world
Yeah.
clock. There's something wrong. It just speeds up. Everything is fast.
I think there was a theory that like the more you move away from the Big Bang
Exactly.
Theory,
It's like we are in this circle. It goes.
yeah, but it's definitely something I've felt in my own skin.
And it's not just the old lads. Everybody has this impression. So I mean, you have to be a bit on the planet to have something to compare it with. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, if you're very new, it's kind of normal to you. But I swear, it's speeding up.
Speaking of your tenure, how does it feel now after all these years since the reunion? Do you feel like it's been of a homecoming or more of a like a new start kind of situation for you?
Both, a little bit of both. It was definitely a homecoming. Getting all this shit out of the way, making peace with people you had negative vibes with for a long time. That's always great. I mean, it's healing. It has to be honest, otherwise it doesn't work. But it was, and for everybody. So that's homecoming. But of course, it's a different band. We have a different dynamic. It's much more complex now. We have more people, so we have more individuals that are very different, which is exciting. But it's different. It's just and also we're older. I started as a teenager. You're just on fire. The only thing you want to do is play, and I was just happy that it worked out. I very quickly knew I don't want to do anything else. I would just go nuts if I would have to do a 9 to 5 job or something like that. Some people can do that. I couldn't do that. So I wasn't thinking like that, but I just naturally gravitated towards I have to make music, and I was excited about these bands, and I was forming my own band and school band, and as soon as I got into Helloween and we did the first record and we started touring and things were happening, I was really happy because I was very quickly able to do what I wanted to do. Also financially, when we had a salary, so we were able to live by it, and that's all you really want. You just want to be doing this and be free from having to do something else because your energy and your time is limited. That was exciting. Today, that drive is a different one. We're all matured. There are many things that you are able to appreciate more. There are other things that you just don't accept anymore, where you have your opinion, and physically it gets harder. So it's kind of nice to be able to do this on the level that we're doing it because we're actually much more successful than we've ever been before. That's the funny thing about it. Doesn't look like it because you don't have this global, or let's say European wide music culture anymore. You have lots of subcultures, and one doesn't know what the other one does. But when I was young, when I was a teenager, somebody got a hit single in one country in Europe, it would end up on MTV in the rotation, and whole Europe would hear it. So it's like as soon as you got heard or recognition in your country, you would have been heard all over Europe, and that was kind of great. But nowadays, it's like these subcultures, and bands can be really successful, and you don't know about them. There are bands that I never heard before, and just somebody tells me, and then oh, right, they play big places and stuff like that. It's like everything is like isolated music streams. That's different. But to come back to how I started, to be able to do this on a higher level makes it easier when you get older. You can travel better, you get better hotels. You don't necessarily have to over tour. I mean, we've just taken 2 years off. I mean, in the early days, we couldn't have done that. But these days, we can do that. And that's amazing. It makes actually everything, I would say, is better, apart from that your body is older, so that you have to prepare more. You feel it more the next day and stuff like that. But it's still okay. I mean, there are other bands out there that are way older than we are, and they're still doing it, But I think that's the key. You need to be able to do it. If it can't do it anymore, it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
We just saw Black Sabbath bid their final farewell, and that was like a very touching moment, I think.
But Ozzy was always, even in the 80s, I remember seeing interviews with him where he was saying, the doctor said, "Why are you alive? Why are you breathing?" Yeah, I get used to the music scene that I grew up with is more and more vanishing.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Prince, they're all gone. Whitney Houston, all these, and I could mention even more. It's like they're all gone already, And you have bands in their final stages and the final phases. There are some bands, I mean, Kiss stopped, and there are other bands that will follow.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, the bands that I grew up with kind of started doing that, but fortunately, most of them gave up on their farewell tours, so they're back.
And it's going to get worse in the next 10 years. Nothing's going to be there anymore that you grew up with, that I grew up with. I don't even know if we are. I mean, at the moment, it looks nice and it all looks good. But who knows if we are going to do that for 10 more years? It can be over in 5. Who knows?
Well, you've got a good setup with the two singer and taking the.
I just hope nobody dies.
I,
Because that's one of the things you can't really change,
yeah.
We have one guy who is living on the edge his entire life. Where I worry sometimes, but it's somehow he's really tough. I don't know how he can take it, but so far he can,
Yeah, we have a saying in my native language: "God watches out for the bold."
And people are different. If I would live like some people that I know, I'd be dead already. I wouldn't be able. I'm not at all drugs. I'm not even that much rock. I'm rock and roll, but I'm not so much. I'm sex, but not in a way that it was meant when they formed this cliche title. I'm more spiritual.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the meaning. I'm not about quick fun. I'm not. I mean, I can let go. I can have a good time with people. I don't have, but as my personality, I need to understand things. I need to be growing. I'm all about meaning and not senseless partying and stuff like that. So it would destroy me if I would go that rabbit hole. But others, it seems like they can take it, at least for a while.
Yeah, it's important that everyone finds their own nexus and it doesn't cross in any. Speaking of meaning, I would like to turn our attention a bit to the new album, and it's been talked to the press by the other members as more of a happy Halloween. And given everything that's going on, we really needed some happy Halloween in our life now. But on the other hand, I was listening to the album these days, and I think it's more introspective than Halloween's been in a while. I do not have the lyrics, but listening to it, I can feel a lot of it is in some deep themes. And I've read in interviews Andy did that it's like about the giants in us, the monsters that we overcome. So what does the album and the themes that go through it mean to you?
It just happened to have a theme. It was not really something we planned to do. I noticed it when we did in Amsterdam. We did an old-fashioned listening session, like it used to happen in the 80s and in the 90s naturally, and not today nobody's doing it anymore. So we thought it's a good idea to do it again like that. So they mixed the album in the Whistler Studios in Holland, and we had a listening session with people there checking it out. And then we did a couple of interviews with everybody together. And then they started to ask questions about the lyrics. And like you said, without having seen the lyrics, but understanding some of the lines. And that was when I noticed it's interesting that they're all kind of dealing, not exactly, but many of them are dealing with the same kind of more spiritual approach. And I think, like I said, it was not something that we made a choice about. It was just people writing their songs, writing the lyrics, and it ended up to be like that. It shows where the band is at and that we're kind of in the same mood, in the same kind of mode, which is good. But I think we're children of our time, like everybody is, and you are influenced by the insanity that goes down. I mean, there was a time where you could have thought humanity improves, but at the moment, it really looks like we're going backwards. You know, it's like there are countries really going backwards to old fascism, religious fanatism, all these kind of things that we should be actually out of now. And I mean, I'm a spiritual person, but I don't give a heck about religions. You know, it's like this is just another trap. There's a pseudo spirituality. That's what religions are. Some people might get something out of it, but that's an individual thing. You know, it's like spirituality is important, but religions, they should be over now because we have left the Dark Ages. We have left Kali Yuga, as the Indian people said, the Dark Ages where the spiritual world was locked. It's not locked anymore. We are locked as a result of the time we went through. So it's open now, and we can reconnect if we want to, but religions prevent people to do that. They stop people from doing that and rather bind them to their systems and to their churches. I think that's why the world goes nuts, because we're still lingering on with the materialism and with this ignorance about the deeper meanings. The information is out there. There's no excuse. Everything is out there. Everything has been given. We are not let alone by the gods. They do care, but they also want us to make free choices. This is why it always just gets revealed, and then it's on us what we do with it. But you see where we're heading against the wall. It's pretty obvious. And many wake up. The majority doesn't. But you always have these people that wake up in some kind of way, or at least consider, hold breath, and then try to think differently and searching for different answers to things, and which is very necessary. Like I said, things are out there. Things are given. It's just a matter of looking at them and really asking questions and wanting to know and letting go of all the prejudice that has been planted in everybody's head and soul. It's not that you can't know. You can. Most people don't want to know. They just want to continue with the same kind of stuff. And this is why we kind of have the impression of moving backwards. I mean, there are things happening, murderous things, like murdering humans in high scales in a way that is just insane. Since we are in a time where everything is media, and you get all this information, you also get thrown to death, you know, with all this negative stuff going down. It was a lot easier 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when you didn't have the internet. You know, you could have looked into the newspaper, but you were not thrown to death with all this information. You have to handle it. And a lot of people can't handle it anymore. They get depressed, things like that. You got to take control. And sometimes you got to shut off. You got to make your choices, how much you let this influence you, how much you want to know. Do you have to know all the crap that happens in the world in every corner? No, you don't. You have to know about the things you can do something about, and you got to be informed a little bit, of course, about, but not, you don't have to know everything. You know, it's like every crime that happened everywhere. I don't need to know that. But because of us being children of our time, and we have a lot of time to think, and when you are creative, you know, you're supposed to think and you're supposed to be productive. So as being individuals of our time, this has an influence on us too. And I think that's part of why it went that way. But we have always been more idealistic. We've never been, none of us has ever been this destructive, satanic, or glorifying destruction, you know, these kind of things that got pretty big in metal. It has always played a big role since the 80s. You know, this sort of satanic, inhuman mindset that is just insane. We were never like that. And this is why I think dealing with the situation is more like that. And this is why the lyrics are like that, and dealing with these kind of things. It's my explanation, because we definitely did not sit down and make a choice that this album has to go this way or that way. It just happened.
Yeah. So you mentioned the scene. How does it compare to before when you were famously disillusioned with everything? You've had a chance to headline a lot of festivals and everything. Do you think there's like a bit of a movement on that front, either positive or negative, or has it stayed mostly the same?
Do you mean the metal scene? I think it's much more open. I really think so. Looking back at it now, when I started to get excited, it was really fresh. I got into this type of music when Iron Maiden had Number of the Beast as the new record, when Judas Priest had Screaming for Vengeance, Metallica came with Kill 'Em All. You had these classic records coming out. It was a very fresh movement at the end of the 70s, mostly from Great Britain, and it sprang from that. And it was some kind of a revolution or rebellious attitude towards the pop industry where everything is just on the outside. Not everything, but it is more superficial. It's like looking pretty and getting hit singles and stuff like that. And I think the hard rock metal movement was a bit of a rebellion against that. So in the 80s, it was almost like a religion. It was almost like a church for many. You had to listen just to that type of music, and if you go away from that, you were like false metal, this kind of crap, which is very, very church-like. It's just the attitude. The attitude, like you either like we think, you think like we think, you hear just what we think is good, or you are bad, which is crap. I mean, I was always listening to lots of different sides of music, even in my hardest metal years. And I really was into metal. I was still listening to other stuff because I didn't need things to be heavy to be good.
Yeah.
And that has changed. Definitely has changed. It's like I mean, the metal hats they're not popes as much anymore as it used to be. They're much more open to various types of music. That's what I would say. It has definitely changed. The metal scene is more open-minded these days.
Yeah.
But when you go to concerts, it's still the same. It feels exactly the same. Okay, they have all those smartphones now, and some are rather watching the concert afterwards that they filmed than really being there. That has changed. I mean, those didn't exist in the 80s. Doesn't bother me. I don't even see that. We're just enjoying ourselves. Whatever they want to do, they can do, But I think the vibe is exactly the same. When I started to do first live touring again with Avantasia and then with Unisonic, I was surprised how much it feels exactly the same like it did in the 80s.
Yeah, and a lot of younger people also coming in to see older bands, which is really
Yeah.
reassuring.
Yeah, it's a timeless music. I mean, hair metal was a fashion. Grunge was a fashion. It was there and then was gone again. Even though I don't know how to grab it, I don't know what that's supposed to be. You tell me what grunge is? It's like,
Unfortunately, I wasn't there when it was.
I mean, you had these three bands like Nirvana, Soundgarden, and Pearl Jam. Did I forget one? And they were supposed to be grunge, but they all sounded different.
Yeah.
They didn't do one style of music. They sounded really different. Pearl Jam to me was like a blues rock band.
Yeah.
Soundgarden to me was like a progressive Black Sabbath. Yeah, Nirvana sounded different. It was like a punk pop kind of thing. And then the media made this grunge thing up, but I'm sure if you ask them, they wouldn't even know what that's supposed to mean. Maybe an attitude.
Really weird, the whole evolution, because grunge started as like anti everything that was on TV at the
like punk
but then they
before.
turned it into.
That was nothing new either. The punk movement in the 70s had the same attitude, anti everything. But it was definitely a fashion. When Nirvana got big, everything else was supposed to be bad. And it's like all the bands were struggling, and then it was over, and they all came back.
Yeah.
It was definitely a fashion. But that's the thing with the classic rock and metal bands. They're not a fashion, and this is why they're timeless. I think this is part of the reason why younger ones can go back to those records. I mean, I did the same when I started to be getting really interested in music. Of course, I was not just listening to completely new records. I was going backwards. I was listening to Rainbow, Deep Purple records from the 70s. I started with Elvis. So I got back to the 50s, 60s. I was also listening to modern music that happened by that time. But you always go back. There is this fashion. Musicians have hit singles and then they're gone, or have one album that is a reflection of the moment, so it doesn't last. And then you have music that is timeless. To get a better feel, when you look at the history of Van Halen, for instance, when you check out the records with David Lee Roth, they're timeless. They had a sound. Nobody sounded like them. It was not a fashion that everybody was doing. They had their sound. Nobody sounded like them. And when you have the Sammy Hagar phase, they wanted to prove something. Eddie wanted to prove we can be successful without David Lee Roth. So they made their sound a little bit like the 80s. You can hear these keyboard sounds in it. So they're not as timeless. They're great, and they're not just fashion because it was still Van Halen, but you have that touch in those records with Sammy Hagar that they are sounding like the 80s much more than the records with David. And it's just the attitude. It's just when you suck in what is successful by the time, in terms of a fashion and in terms of trying to be appealing to the audience of the time, you're more in danger to be dated after a while because you're just a reflection of what was hip. But when you do your own thing and you have your own personality, that's not just a reflection of fashions that might stay. It might stay relevant, you know. I mean, I'm not saying that Sammy Hagar Van Halen is not relevant anymore, but when I listen to these records, I notice that.
Yeah.
The Hagar years sound more dated than the David Lee Roth years, to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They carry the sign of the times with them. I understand what you mean. So how is it today, you think, in terms of metal? Because there's all these genres, we have on one hand the retro vibe coming back, like 70s style with Ghost.
I mean, that's definitely good. I love the 70s. It was great music. My God. Some of the best shit comes from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. I've never been a metal thinker. It's just music. You know what I mean? And when there is a metal band that's interesting, then I'm excited about that. And if it's a different kind of genre, I'm excited about that. To me, it's all music, and whatever gives me a kick, I'm happy about. So I'm not so much focused on the metal scene. And especially when you're doing it again, and you do this loud party stuff on stage when you're on tour, you're even more interested in other types of music, more silent, more acoustic stuff or things like that. Classical music, that's the main music I'm listening to. I would say like 95% of the time I'm putting on classical music. I have a wall of super audio CDs over there. And it's like you balance. If you play metal music, normally you have many have a tendency to listen to not so loud and aggressive music when you have some free time. But I was, in addition to that, always very open in the types of music. But as I said earlier, you do not have this global European music culture anymore. You have these subcultures. So you miss out on things. And occasionally something happens, and it happened to me. I discovered my all-time favorite vocalist. It's a girl. To me, the best singer I've ever heard. I never heard of her before, even though she's around, I would say like 2017. She got recognized by Pink, and she made her famous in Holland. She's from the Netherlands. I didn't know her, but she was an experience for me personally that gave me hope. I was like, wow, someone like that's still possible. There's still hope. You know, when a young one is able to do all that, I mean, a girl has full control, perfect control in her voice, a big resonant voice if she wants to have it. She can sound sexy. She can sound like Whitney Houston, but without the diva shit. And she can do rock, and she does R&B stuff, and everything she does, she owns. And she has soul. That's the thing. She has passion. I think she did a cover of Halo from Beyonce, which I think is better.
Yeah.
Because no diva, not this diva shit, but the emotions get to me more. So, if you care, her name is Davina Michelle.
I listened to her after a recommendation in another interview by the vocal control, and yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah. But the interesting thing with her is the musical style that she choose to express herself in, like the style of songs that she's writing. It's not very hip. It's actually the 80s, 90s, parts of the 2000s. It sounds a lot like a bit more improved, a bit more modernized, maybe, yeah, with influences by Imagine Dragon or whatever. That's, I think, her favorite band. It's a great band. But it is the language I grew up with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because she is half my age. And so it looks like that even younger musicians are not necessarily just influenced by what is hip at the moment. They look backwards and get influenced by. And she learned from some of the masters that I grew up with, you know?
Yeah. I've been discovering a lot of older music since getting a record player. And
Yeah.
one thing I realized is the less there is to the music, the more timeless and the fuller it sounds. Because, you know, when you play some of the modern metal things, there's too much going on. When you play
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like Fleetwood Mac, there's, I don't know, 16 channels or whatever.
A song, if you have melody, a good song, you don't need to do a lot of circus.
Yeah.
You don't have a good idea, you need to blow it up with production, with all the crap that makes it interesting. But it's like when you have a great song, this is actually destructive. If you make too much nonsense, it draws the attention away from the basic idea, so it gets weaker.
Yeah.
You know, you can try to convince through production how you tell the story, how you frame the song. And that's usually happening when there's not a very good song, when it's just a very poor idea. Like maybe it's just written to have a chart hit or whatever. A lot of people today write like that. They like psychologically think about how long is their attention span. So it's like a few seconds they can only concentrate today, which is horrible to think about. And then they write the songs like that.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with what music was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it still is for real musicians, you know.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good segue to back to the album because what you said about having a good idea and everything developed, I really hear that in two particular tracks I really love on the album. It's a little too much and Hand of God. They're very like focused, for lack of a better term, but they're very direct and it shines through. Do you have any of your personal favorites on the album?
My personal favorite is definitely Into the Sun. I think it's really powerful. I have a few. I have obviously other reasons why I like them. Two of the Moonlight, for instance, turned out to be much cooler than we all thought in the beginning. It kind of developed in this vibe that was cool. It was funny. It was kind of almost, I don't know the English word for it. Yeah, not teasing, but it's like when a child doesn't I mean, in a good way, has no respect for authority and is joking around. You know, it's like, I don't know what the English word for it. Let me have a look. Maybe there's not even a word existing.
What's the German one?
Frech. Cheeky. I was really happy that 2 or 3 songs that we thought might be okay, but not really, probably not for the album. We just take them for bonus tracks or whatever. Turned out to be really strong in the end. And that's great. It's always very satisfying. And of course, you like these songs in particular that sort of grew in the production phase.
One good thing about the album is it's really hard for me to pick a favorite.
And
Yeah.
when I listen to a new album of anyone that I like, I always have quick favorites, but it might change. Like after a while, I prefer another song even more. That's normal.
Yeah, I think thinking about general crowd Helloween fans, most of them I think will react very well to
Oh, they do.
Savior.
Or like Universe, which is more classic.
Yeah. So it's interesting for me to see this synergy and dynamic with you and Weiki and him writing for you after everything that's happened. Do you think everything that's happened has strengthened your artistic bond?
I'll tell you, I needed this time for myself. I needed to get out of the band. I needed to do what I did, like dealing with these spiritual things, being on my own, fighting the fight with the metal scene, you know, all these kind of things. I had to go through that. It was necessary for me. It was shaping my personality. And I can tell you, I mean, I've had these meetings with Weiki, and we don't really know what the problem was because there wasn't really one. It was just something that was meant to happen. And there was a situation where it was not long ago when we were rehearsing for the final show, I think it was in 23, before we did the break. It was a festival in Mexico and we were rehearsing. And I remember he was smoking a cigarette outside of the rehearsal room. And he said again, He said that a few times. I'm so sorry what I did. I don't know what went down. And I said, don't worry, you're forgiven. It was meant to happen. They sent you some demons that are stronger than you. They influence you, and then these things happen because it has to happen. Forget it. It's all good. And that's another thing for me, not knowing exactly what it was because there wasn't anything in particular. It's to me again such. I mean, of course, seeing the fruits for me, what came out of it, what I've learned out of this whole process, clearly. But even how it unfolded is so obviously that it was supposed to happen. I needed this time for myself. I needed to be off. If I would have stayed in the band, just imagine Kai never left, and everything would have continued from Keeper 2.
Yeah.
This would have been a great career, no doubt about it. We would have been making greater, bigger tours and things like that, but I would be completely consumed by it. It would have taken all my time and all my energy, and I was supposed to deal with other things too. And look how cool it is now. What we're doing now is only happening because of this past.
Yeah. And
Not necessarily a negative thing, even if it looks like it when it happens, Always depends what comes out of it, really.
Perspective, it was really like career changing because you as the band now set a precedent because no one has done this. A singer, two main lead singers, we have Avantasia and stuff like that, which basically one person we guess, but this is like a whole new template for a rock band.
I mean, you have bands who just right from the start had more singers, like Linkin Park, or Kiss. You had the main singers and which are very different. But I can't think of a band who did it like we do. It's like when they started, Kai was singing, he's in the band. Then I was in the band, I was singing and I'm in the band. And then Andy was singing and he's in the band. So it's like everybody who ever vocalized in this band is there now. And that's definitely different because usually it's an ego thing. It's like when one person leaves and the other comes, then they hate each other. And, but this time nobody leaves. It's like we're just joining this band all together, which is making it very interesting live. I think also for the audience, because we can do the biggest circus now. Yeah. We can play anything and whatever we want to do, we can do it with the original singers. We can switch things around. We can be good for surprises. I can sing songs that I've never done before and stuff like that. It's amazing. I never would have thought of anything like that before this happened. It's really cool.
Yeah, for me too, as a Helloween fan, when they announced it first, I was like mind blown. How is this going to work? And when I saw the first show, it was just, this is how it was supposed to be.
I was surprised myself how good it was working. It's like, you don't know until you do it. What will be the vibe on stage? What will be the energy? You can't produce it. It just happens. This is just the individuals together. They make the energy and the audience and how they perceive it and stuff like that. And everybody was really excited how it went down, even though the first tour was really tough for me because I was sick the whole time. A real struggle, but the audience was great. They were making every show.
Yeah, I think it really shows on this album much more than the previous one, the synergy between you, because you can hear a lot of meddling, and it's been confirmed, I think, by Andy in interviews, that songwriters did each other's parts, and Kai, for example, did the song. He did an intro that wasn't the middle part that wasn't in it. I swear I can hear him in Universe in the Queen part. That sounds Kai-ish to me.
Yeah. I wanted him to do the whole part. I mean, Sasha wanted me to sing the song in general, and then there was the situation where Kai was doing the talking part, and then I had the idea, why doesn't he sing the part afterwards too? So you have him doing the talking and the singing, and then I come back. So he did that, but Sasha wanted me to do the whole thing, so I had to do it afterwards. But we kept Kai in the voicings. We kept Kai in the backings and stuff like that. Now, I mean, it is true. It's like when you start to do something like this, and when we did the first record, of course, people are more isolated, more protective. Every individual, there's more insecurity. You're more protecting your songs and stuff like that. But this is over. We passed that phase. And it's just more organic now. And now they're more throwing bits to each other and throw ideas around. That protective phase is over. It's more a unit now.
Yeah, and you can hear it. It really makes me actually excited for the upcoming tour. So if you could tell us in a few words what we can expect, there's obviously been a lot of talk about some.
Oh yeah, it's going to be different again. I mean, we're always trying to do that, but this time especially, we did this. We were asking the fans if there are any particular songs that they would like to hear live. Surprisingly, most of the songs that they wanted to hear, we play live anyway. But there were songs we were surprised. We thought they would pick very different songs, but actually, I guess we were not so wrong with the choices we did before. But there were a bunch of songs that we have either never played or haven't played for ages. So there are going to be some of those in there. Of course, we got to play some of the new stuff. But there will all, I mean, so the set will be slightly different, of course, apart from the songs we just have to play. Even if we don't want to, we just have to play it. Otherwise, there would be a disappointment. I would be more brave, to be honest with you. I would be much more radical when it comes to these things. If I would have to choose it, I'd probably have a completely different set this time. Would maybe be stupid, but I think it's fun to do things like that.
Maybe I should try it on one of the sold out dates.
There will be switches. There is some new songs in there, definitely. I mean, that was the whole plan. But I would be more radical if I would have to decide it. And of course, there will be a whole new stage set. I've only seen it in the computer, like a 3D design, and that looked great. It was different to what we had before. I don't know how they really will realize it in the end, because sometimes you have an idea, and when you try to build it, you come across problems you haven't thought about. So you have to compromise and things like that. So it's never exactly like it was planned. But what I saw, it looked really nice. Very modern, actually.
Is it more on the physical side or more on the digital? Because we've seen like
Both.
Iron Maiden changing their show to a lot of only screen. Iron Maiden,
It's too much for me.
it's all screens.
The problem I have with this is still supposed to be a rock band. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's Iron Maiden. They started the whole.
You don't need that. It's.
Yeah.
I understand they want to be modern and they want to be exciting. I think it's too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They don't need all that. It's almost like Michael Jackson did it in the 90s. I thought that was too much, way too much, but that was Michael Jackson, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit of an insecurity. I don't know. I don't know why.
I wrote an article about it. I was really surprised with everything. And I think it has a lot to do probably with touring costs, because with their stages before, it was just a lot of logistics involved. And this is a really like a streamlined.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it live. I've just seen bits and pieces on YouTube. But I thought it was just for my personal taste, knowing Iron Maiden since I'm a teenager. Okay. I think it's too much. They don't need it. The focus should always be on the band, a band playing there. And it's nice to have things happening, but it shouldn't be too much. So it's like with us, it's both. We have a physical different stage, and there will be also something happen in digital, but not like that. I can guarantee you that. That will be just something a little bit in the background, like we had it, but that's not going to be the focus. Yeah. No. This is like, the band will be the focus. That's the thing. The band playing the songs, and the rest is just there as an extra, but it should never be the main thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This type of music.
I agree with you, and I'm really happy to hear that. And it's also going to be a great tour because you're joined by Beast in Black, which is like one of the torchbearers of the whole power metal scene. So I think it's going to be.
That was Kai's idea.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to be good. If we would do, especially when Maiden does something like this digital big production and stuff like that, it would be stupid to do the same. So it makes sense to differ. I think part of why grunge got so successful was also because it was reducing everything to its essence.
Yeah.
There's nothing about the show anymore. It was all just about people standing on a stage playing music. And I think it was also kind of a reaction to these overblown productions that were pretty big before. You had these huge shows, all of those bands, and had these big rock productions. And then you had the Nirvana guys standing there, t-shirt, jeans, trousers, and nothing else. Not even their hair was washed, okay? It was back to the absolute essence. And the more bands now are overblowing this again, it might snap back to people getting tired of it, So I think it makes sense that we don't overdo that. Rock rock bands should still be rock bands, and that should be the essence of it.
The music should be first.
The Americans have always been more like that. Bands like Kiss is typical American circus, but that was their thing right from the start. To make these masks and stuff like that, and that was cool. Even Elvis liked it. It's funny enough, Elvis saw Kiss and he said, that's how to do it. That's the way to do it. He said he liked it.
I know that.
Yeah, I did saw an interview where somebody said that he had a word with Elvis and showed him Kiss, like the early Kiss things, and he liked it.
I want to thank you for your time. It was a really, really enjoyable interview, and really looking forward to seeing you out on tour.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing we're going to do the next 3 years. The album, the next, is already written.
Yeah.
All the songs are done, even for the next one. So we don't even have to spend a lot of time there. So I think next 3 years we'll be live playing. Not continuously, but again and again.
As a fan, that's really great to hear. Do you have any final messages for fans of Helloween?
It's just a very good face of the band. The band is at a very good place right now and reflects on the album, and it's going to reflect on the shows. It's a good time to check the tour out. It's selling great. Many of the bigger places have already been sold out weeks ago. It's amazing. If there's still tickets available, just come to the show. Take it while it's hot.